그 지금 녹화로 보고 계신 분들은 126쪽에서 conversation 1 지금 할 겁니다. So woman is gonna sound like this, like my normal voice. Man is gonna be much lower, like this. Okay? I'm not gonna go high. 너무 힘들어.
에어컨 온도 좀 올려주세요.
Okay, so here we go. Hello, Marcus. Have a seat. What can I do for you? Hello, Professor. I wanted to talk to you about the peer review system you outlined in class today. Okay, what would you like to know? Well, I'm not sure if I'm really qualified to review my classmates' papers. I mean, I am majoring in architecture, and most of them are English majors. I see. Might I ask why you decided to take this course then? Oh, I wanted to take it because it focuses on early 20th century literature. I love the architecture from that period, so I wanted to learn more about the people who made those wonderful buildings. Literature is a great way to get into the mindset of a period in history. That is an excellent reason for taking this class. That kind of reasoning shows that you understand literature more than you realize. All that is needed to give useful feedback to others is able to write well yourself. And writing papers is required for architecture just as it is for any subject. So, I think you are definitely qualified to review your classmates' essays. Well, thank you, Professor. With that in mind, have you chosen what to write about for your next paper? No, not yet. Well, are you familiar with an author named Edith Wharton? Not really, but that name sounds familiar. She's on our syllabus for later in the semester. I have selected a few of her short stories for the class, but I think she might be of particular interest to you. She was both a writer and an architect. She was? Well, she didn't have any formal training as an architect, but she was very interested in interior design, architecture, and landscaping. Her first book was The Decoration of Houses, which she co-wrote with Ogden Codman Jr., who was an actual professional architect. She was born into New York City high society, and her fiction is heavily influenced by her experiences in that social group. She often criticized that society, and that extended to her nonfiction. She thought that the way that rich people built and decorated their houses showed a horrible lack of good taste. In her opinion, a building should be built in a simple and elegant manner, and the interior should be decorated in a similar fashion. She was disgusted with the tendency of the rich to decorate their homes in ways that showed just how rich they were. Their lavish furniture and gold cover artworks were shameless excess in her eyes. She and Codman set out to educate their social circle, to show them how to create practical, beautiful, and pleasing homes that would influence to society as a whole. Wow, she sounds very interesting. Do you think that our library has any copies of her books? Well, she wrote many novels and short stories, so I'm sure that the library has some of those. If you are interested in looking at her nonfiction work, that might prove a bit more difficult. I know that the library has a copy of the decoration of houses, but it is in the reference section, so you wouldn't be able to check it out. Do you think that they would let me photocopy the book? I doubt that they would let you copy the entire book, but they have some people on staff trained to make copies from rare books. Why don't you take a look at the book first? If you find some pages you would like to have copied, come and tell me. I can call the head librarian and request that he help you. Okay, thank you, Professor. Good. 문제 풀어보세요. 했니? 자, 풀어볼까? 1번. Why did the man come to see the professor?
A.
Yeah, to see if it's okay for him to get feedback on his classmate's paper. Definitely. Number 2. What is the professor's attitude toward the student's question?
C.
I think it's C. Right? She believes the student is qualified enough to review other people's work. 왜냐면 어차피 architecture에서도 에세이를 쓰는 거니까 English essay 써야 되니까 충분히 잘한다고 했죠. 3번 detail. Why does the professor recommend Edith Wharton's work to the student? Yeah, Wharton was a writer and amateur architect. Yes, 맞아요. Detail. What did Wharton try to do regarding the building and the interior design of her time? B. Yes, she promoted minimal display of wealth and social status. 맞아요. 마지막 5번. What will the student most likely do next?
A.
A죠. Go to the library and read the book that the professor mentioned. Definitely. 자, 하나 더 할 겁니다.
Conversation 2.
132쪽에 있는.
Now we're going to do lecture 2.
아.
알았어. Conversation 2? Conversation 더 길어.
렉처. 아, 그래요?
lecture가 더 짧아. Lecture 2.
그럴 수가 있어.
진짜. Look, lecture, page and a half.
이제 이런 느낌.
Conversation. Conversation. 1, 2,
솔직히 쓰는 거 모르겠어.
1, 2, 3.
뭔가 아닌 거 아니야?
아 맞아. 맞다고. Lecture 2. Ready? 간다. Lecture 2야. Lecture 2 페이지 뭐야?
130.
130. 130?
네.
30.
Okay, let's go. Among the many cultures that lived, sorry, 다시. 빨리 할 거야. Like an actual college course. Among the many cultures that lived in the Middle East between the Neolithic period and the rise of Islam, one of the more obscure has been the Hurrians. They arrived in the northern part of the Fertile Crescent in the Middle Bronze Age and quickly spread to occupy an area that stretched from the Zagros Mountains in the east to the Kabur River Valley in the west. Although they adapted the cuneiform writing system of the Akkadians by around 2000 BCE, they actually spoke a language that was unrelated to the Indo-European and Semitic one spoken by the most of the other cultures in the area at that time. Many historians believe that they originated in the Caucasus region, and some respected Russian linguists have drawn comparisons between Hurrian and Northeast Caucasus languages. But their true origins remain unknown. Despite their linguistic differences, they greatly influenced their neighbors, and the Hittites in particular, and they eventually came to dominate their region for a brief time as the kingdom of Mitanni. 괜히였나? 너무 이게 너무 많은데?
Conversation 하면 안 돼.
알았어, conversation 하자.
아, 지금 그냥 쭉 하시면 안 돼요?
알았어, 미안해. So one reason that researching their culture is difficult is that the Hurrians did not urbanize on the scale that their Assyrian and Egyptian neighbors did. The cities of Babylon and Thebes were huge urban centers, while the majority of Hurrian city mounds in the Kabur Valley are rarely larger than 1 square kilometer. The notable exception to this rule is the city of Urkesh, which is their oldest city. The Hurrians appear to have been much more decentralized, with a more feudal organization that precluded large palace or temple complexes. However, they were still very influential. The Hurrians are noted for their masterful pottery, exceptional metalwork, and their pervasive religion. The ceramics that the Hurrians produced are referred to as Kabur ware and Nuzi ware. Both types of pottery are made on a wheel, and they were highly valued as far away as Egypt. Kabur ware predates Nuzi ware, and its construction tends to be somewhat heavier. It is decorated with red lines and geometric patterns, while Nuzi is more delicate and painted black or brown. The Kabul Valley was located in the center of the metal trade. The Kabul Valley was located in the center of metal trade, and copper, silver, and tin were mined from Hurrian-controlled areas and traded there. The Hurrians also had a reputation as skilled smiths, and their terminology for copper working was adopted by the Sumerians. This shows that they were superior artisans, and that they may have even introduced the technology to some local cultures. Unfortunately, few samples of their metal work have survived except from the latter part of their civilization. But a few small lion figurines found in Urkesh show fine craftsmanship. In a variety of ways and forms, the Hurrian religion affected nearly the entire ancient Near East, with the exceptions of Egypt, which already had a well-established pantheon of gods, and the southern Mesopotamia. Perhaps its greatest impact was on the religion of the Hittites, but their gods and the legends about them pervaded the religion. Some have even been said to have inspired some of the earliest legends of the Greeks, especially those regarding the creation of the Olympians. 학생이, Professor, you mentioned that the Hurrians also gained political influence. Will you go into that more? 교수님이, I was just getting to that. The Hurrian kingdom had been reduced to a vassal state by the early 20th century BCE. But as the Babylonian civilization continued to fragment the 18th century BCE, before the conquest of the Hittites, the Hurrians steadily expanded their territory until they were able to form a distinct kingdom once again. They eventually possessed lands extending to the Mediterranean Sea, which brought them into conflict with Egypt. Under a king named Kurta, they established the kingdom of Mitanni around 1500 BCE, which developed into the most powerful kingdom in the region and lasted until about 1300 BCE. Afterward, they were absorbed by the Assyrians and became a subservient state once again. That's a lot. It's a lot of words.
이게 어려운.
Yeah, it's quite hard. 이거 진짜 어렵다. 일단 1번부터 잠깐 해볼게. 메인 같이 해보자. So the main idea of the topic, or the main topic of the lecture, 아마 1번일 거예요, 그렇죠? 네, the influence of the Hurrians and their neighboring cultures. lecture에 의하면 what is true about the Hurrians? 이거는 B하고 C, 그렇죠? They spoke a different language from their neighbors. They started using cuneiform writing system around 2000 BCE. 또 디테일 하나. What resulted from the Hurrian small-scale urbanization? 이건 D죠. It made studying their culture and cities rather difficult. Okay? 그럼 없어졌으니까. Connecting contents. Why does the professor mention Kabur ware and Nuzi ware?
T.
Yeah, 맞아요, T예요. To emphasize the skillful pottery making of the Hurrians. 잘했어. What can be inferred about the religion of the Hurrians?
A.
Yeah, it was recognized throughout the region, affecting certain cultures. Nice. 6번. 이 부분입니다. Professor, you mentioned that the Hurrians also gained political influence. Will you go into that more? 교수님이? I was just getting to that. 교수님 왜 그렇게 하니까? I was just getting to that.
A,
No. C.
C.
이제 막 얘기하려고 했다는 거죠. 그 킹덤에 대해서. 네, 여기까지 하겠습니다.